Let's move on to the rest and spread operators. These two operators are another part of ES6 that are all about writing less code with all the programs that we write. So their purpose is just to write less code, much like many other topics that we've covered in ES6. To explore the rest operator, we're going to revisit a topic that we covered a while back, where we used the reduce array helper. So if you recall, the reduce array helper is used to compact all of the values in an array down to a single value. The canonical use case for this is for summing up numbers in an array. So let's write a function right now that will sum all the numbers in an array using the reduce helper. All right, so let's give it a shot. We're going to make our function and call it add numbers. And we'll assume they'll be passed an array of numbers. And then inside of here, we can return numbers.reduce. This will be called with our sum and an individual number. And then we'll start off with a default of 0. Then inside, we can return sum plus number. And this would be a fantastic location, by the way, to refactor from the function keyword over to just a fat arrow function. So I could replace function with a fat arrow function, or excuse me, a fat arrow on the opposite side of the argument list like so. If I wanted to, I could also drop off the curly braces, but just for purposes of this video, I'm going to leave them on just to have a little bit cleaner separation of code here, just to make everything a little bit more legible. So now the last step will be to call add numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we get 15 as the result up here. Perfect. So let's throw a little twist here. I want to throw out a what if, okay? I want to say, what if we wanted to sum a bunch of numbers, but they were not in an array? So I want to say, if I, instead of passing a single array in here, like, you know, this array, I want to instead pass multiple arguments, like so. So I want to pass in a bunch of numbers not in an array. So now numbers, instead of just numbers, I would have something like A, B, B, C, D, E, or something like that. And then instead of doing a reduce over numbers.reduce, I would have to ahead of time do something like const numbers A, B, C, D, and E, like so. Now everything's back to working. But definitely just throwing off the way in which we pass in these arguments definitely throws things off a little bit. So you might be thinking, okay, Stephen, like, you know, you're kind of reaching now. Why in the world would we ever want to mess around with our argument list like that, right? Well, you know, bear with me for a little bit here. Let's say that just maybe we want to do this for some reason. We will look at some more realistic operations in just a minute, but let's just say that instead of passing in an array of numbers, I just want to pass in as many arguments or numbers as I please over time. So taking this approach of having all the separate arguments written out here would be, you know, definitely a little bit of a hassle. And so the purpose of this rest operator that we're going to use is to capture that list of arguments. Okay. So right now we've got this list of seven different arguments that we're passing in here, and I want to get at those arguments as a single array. That's the key. I want to just like have an array of numbers coming from my argument list. So to do so, I can use the rest operator. We use the rest operator by placing ... and then numbers. And you can see that now we're back to getting a number here. So what this does is it says, okay, I accept that my argument list here is going to have some unknown number of arguments. Like, I don't know how many there are. There might be 7, there might be 8, 9, 10, however many. There's going to be some number of arguments here. I want to capture all of those arguments and put them into a single array. So this array of numbers. That is the purpose of this ... right here. It is what we refer to as the rest operator. So again, this might not look like, you know, the most usable thing. You know, for example, why am I doing it this way? Why would I not just put everything into an array like this? I'm going to say, you know what, there are some use cases of writing a function in this style. Let's continue in the next section and look at a more practical example and maybe figure out why we might take this approach.